What's up, guys? Hope y'all are having an absolutely fantastic day today. I know I am. And today we're going to be looking at some shit that I found on my page while in the weight room. So for context, I've been looking for a video idea for a long ass time. I haven't had anything to do really, and I've just been playing Elden Ring basically. And this video I found that it is terrible, by the way. This video is absolutely horseshit. It's by Harmon, who, if you've ever seen any video about this guy, you'll know this guy just has some of the worst opinions literally on the planet. Like, he compares fucking games that are just not in the same genre. Anyway, this video is titled "The Elden Ring Audience is Slowly Realizing that Shadows of the Erdtree," that's not how it's spelled, the Shadow of the Erdtree, anyway, was disappointing. Which, dude, I've watched a little bit of this video. I wanted to, save this until I saw the full thing, or until I was making this video. But, dude, this video is absolute horseshit. Well, with all that further ado, let's go ahead and
scare right into the news.
It's really interesting to see a sort of repeat of the Starfield situation in 2024, right? Elden Ring Shadows of the Erdtree is hyped up to be the greatest thing in gaming, shoe-in for Game of the Year, one of the best games ever made, one of the best DLCs ever made. This is going to be a big deal, and once it launches, it's a wet fart that's immediately forgotten about.
Okay, I don't mean to be like an asshole, other than I do kind of, but does this guy not wash his hair? Like, is he like an actual no shower guy? Because I mean, look how greasy this guy's hair is. You know what I mean? Look how greasy as hell this guy's hair is. Anyway, Starfield's like actual shit, okay? I don't know why you're comparing Elden Ring, literally the game that won Game of the fucking Year 2022, to Starfield, which was an actual slop game. Even so, like, the fucking Elden Ring DLC is not slop, okay? Most people are getting filtered by the fact that there's the skibidi fragment system, which basically you'll find in, like, the Elden Ring DLC area. You'll find these little fragments that you can use to upgrade your damage mitigation or defense, and your damage, right? This is mainly so that endgame builds that are like level 713 can't just like run through the entire game. I think it's fair, dude, because endgame builds are just basically face fuck the entirety of the game, if not for this little system. Like, being 100% honest, dude, just endgame builds would completely rape this fucking game with this system, right? Like, which it makes sense because they want their players to actually have to explore. They want them to have difficulty because it's not fun. If you come into the first boss of Dark Souls 3 but you have every single item in the entire fucking game, it's not gonna be fun because you don't have to like do any difficulty really, unless you absolutely fucking suck like Harmon did at Elden Ring.
Outside of that obvious shill campaign, nobody really has anything nice to say about Shadows of the Erdtree at all.
You serious?
Right? It's unbalanced, it has a disappointing ending, it retcons a lot of core aspects of the lore, right? Like, people were not happy with what the DLC tried to do.
Okay, Harmon, if you hate this DLC so much and you like hate fucking FromSoftware and you didn't buy this DLC, I assume because of how much you're saying you're hating it, how would you know about the ending? How would you know about how bad the lore adds? Because the lore I've seen, it's cool, it's fucking awesome, dude, okay? Like, the Miklas shit, the fact that Radahn is getting fucking raped, like, that's fucking awesome, dude.
I do think this demonstrates the problem that FromSoftware is going to have going forward, is that the vast majority of their audience, the vast majority of the people who played Elden Ring didn't actually beat it. And as a result of that, these aren't the people who are going to get fired up and excited about a DLC expansion. If Elden Ring was not one of the most overhyped games in recent memory, definitely one of the most overhyped games of the decade, I don't think anybody would have been fired up about the DLC at all. Because when you actually look at the metrics, when you actually play Elden Ring and start looking at the achievements, like, you start realizing that, like, wow, a lot of people didn't beat the first several bosses.
Alright, so the thing you're describing here, Harmon, is called people being filtered, okay? A lot of people were filtered by Margit because they sucked at fucking Souls, were not good enough to beat him, and they decided, this is not for me. I'm not going to keep playing this. This is a waste of time, you know what I mean? That's why most people haven't beaten Margit.
In Elden Ring. And you know that the further you go along, there's more and more of a drop-off. You know, more and more people just wander like the wastes, you know, fighting the same repetitive enemies over and over again, and slowly start realizing that, like, wow, this game is not very good.
Bruh.
And of course, they drop the game, never really think about it again. But they did buy the game. They were one of the 25 million units, 25 million people who bought the game. And so these people who don't enjoy Elden Ring are propped up as an example of just why Elden Ring is such a masterpiece. Like, oh, it's so great, it's so wonderful, it's one of the best games ever made. Well, why? Again, when you actually look at what's going on with Elden Ring, it's the same thing with Dark Souls, right? Like, everybody hypes it up based on its difficulty, based on its, like, reputation, and people check it out, people get into it, people try to play it, and they're just like, oh, I don't enjoy this, and then they fall off. And then, rinse, wash, and repeat, over and over and over again. But with Elden Ring, what's different this time is it feels like more and more people are getting uppity at the idea that anybody could have any kind of problems with Elden Ring at all, right? So for the first several weeks after the DLC expansion came out, people were refusing to admit that the game had any problems at all, right? Everybody wanted to, like, blame the players. They wanted to, like, say you were a casual. Never mind the fact that you had to play through all of the base game to get to the DLC, right? Like, the kind of people who were fired up about the DLC were the kind of people who have beaten the game several times over and over again to begin with. Like, the people who were criticizing the DLC knew what they were talking about. No, let's just slander them all as casuals. Let's just try and write off all the very real problems with the DLC in order to prop up the narrative that, like, FromSoftware is a completely flawless company that has never done anything wrong, that produces nothing but masterpieces, and that far eclipses the far more lucrative and successful Zelda IP, right?
I don't know, man. I have no fucking idea why this guy is comparing these two completely different franchises in completely different genres. Like, literally, Elden Ring and the Dark Souls series created their own fucking, like, genre. They made their own genre, right? Like, and also, people who are saying that Shadow of the Erdtree has no fucking problems are just literally mentally fucking retarded, okay? I'm sorry, if you're saying Shadow of the Erdtree is perfect, there's no issues with it at all, like, you're just fucking stupid, dude. I hate to tell you this, right? But there's not very many issues. There's a lot less of issues than most fucking AAA games at this point.
Right? But the more they do that, the more they do this, the more people are going to, like, realize, they're going to go through the process that I went through when I played Dark Souls back in the day, that the games aren't actually fun. You know, they're finicky, they're gimmicky, they have terrible boss designs. I remember when I played the original Dark Souls, and I suddenly had this, like, epiphany, like, halfway through. It was on the Gaping Dragon, I think, in the depths, right? I was fighting this thing, and I realized this thing only has 2 attacks. This thing has very predictable patterns. It's very easy to, like, run circles around. It's not all that dangerous. The only thing that makes the game challenging is that the hitboxes are wonky and your character can't really take any hits.
Basically, the difficulty of a game like Elden Ring is that you make mistakes, right? It's not that the game is, like, bad or the game is, like, fucking you over. It's that you fucked up, you made a mistake, and now you have to retry. Like, you'll get really far into a boss attempt, then you die, and then you'll get pissed off, right? That's the whole point of the game. Or, it's not the whole point of the game. The whole point of the game is to fight bosses and get good. But, especially, like, what he's saying here about attack, like, numbers, how many attacks there are. Literally, like, look at the amount of attacks the Elden Beast or Radigan has. That bitch has, like, 10 attacks, dude. It's not, like, easy to memorize 10 attacks and to always dodge them perfectly, right?
That's it. When you compare it to something like Monster Hunter, which has so much better general design philosophy, way more challenging monsters, way better environments, visuals, music, like, the difference is really striking.
I kind of fucking hope the difference difference is striking, dude. You're playing a different fucking video game. I'm not playing Elden Ring 2 when I'm playing Monster Hunter fucking Wilds, dude.
As you start climbing up like the Monster Hunter rankings and start going after more and more powerful monsters, like Monster Hunter is a better FromSoftware, right? Again, when you look at Monster Hunter and compare the boss fights, when you look at Zelda and compare the general like adventure and feel to it, like you realize very quickly that the FromSoftware formula cannot match up to any of its direct competition. Right? People say it has a really unique, like, fresh take on the genre, that it's its own unique thing, but that's not really true.
This is how you fucking know this guy's never played past the first boss in Dark Souls. Literally, Dark Souls created its own fucking genre, that being the Souls-like, dude. You're acting like this is some, like, played out title and played out genre. It's not. They're not even in the same fucking genre, okay? Let's be frank. And, you know, in a sec, everybody be sure to buckle up them brain cells for his next point, y'all.
When you look at, like, something like Castlevania, you get a more compact experience, better bosses, better design, more memorable characters, more of an evolution than you do in, like, a 100-hour-long FromSoftware game. Right, you know, I was kind of shocked playing through the Castlevania Dominus Collection, right? You know, these DS games that are like 20 years old, like all of them are better than any FromSoftware game. Why? Because they have better mechanics, they have better characters, better art design, better music, right? There are actual distinguishable differences between the games, right? They actually have like build up an overarching lore and saga about Castlevania. Like, FromSoftware doesn't get anywhere near that level of quality. All it does is like vaguely imply some things happened in the distant past, and like, ooh, things are different now, and like you're just some nobody going up and fighting against gods, right? It's like it's the same thing over and over and over again. And again, I've said this before, but like the difference between how Zelda is treated versus Dark Souls is like amazing, because we were told, you know, by the industry for years that like Zelda's just the same thing over and over and over again, when that was never really true at all. Like, just compare Link's Awakening, Ocarina, Majora's Wind Waker, like none of them are the same thing at all. And yet you have like an entire generation of like 40-year-old boomers who genuinely believe that, right? And then meanwhile, you look at Dark Souls, which has had no real evolution or change at all. Its entire lineup. Like, FromSoftware doesn't really produce anything besides Souls games anymore, right? And yet, we're supposed to believe these are some, like, innovative masterpieces, that these are, like, cutting edge, like, the best games ever made. No. Like, these games are just nothing special and really should be treated as such. That's the thing that really gets me about FromSoftware, is that this series is clearly running on fumes. It's running on, like, the ignorance of normies. It's kind of like how, you know, Game of Thrones fans will tell you that, like, oh, the first 4 seasons were better.
Alright, folks, you know I asked y'all to buckle up the brain cells. I hope you can unbuckle your brain cells real quick to think about this. This guy's not once, not twice, not even 3 times paired games that are not even in the same fucking genre. Castlevania is literally a fucking platformer.
Right? They were the ones that set up the lore and the setting and all the characters and all these great moments and stuff like that. But when you actually look at the numbers, it was like the later seasons that were more popular, because those were the seasons that were built up on top of the older ones, right? That's what happened to Elden Ring, right? Dark Souls was better than Elden Ring. Fanboys don't want to admit it, but this is like the ultimate debunking of Elden Ring's relevancy. Ask yourself the question: is Elden Ring better than Dark Souls?
Yes.
And the answer should be a resounding no from everyone, right? Like, again, when you compare it to like how Zelda is treated, how like for years we went through this process of like being told that like Ocarina is better than Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and that therefore that made all of those games worthless, and that you should only play Ocarina, even though that game is like 10 to 15 hours long and you'll beat it eventually. and then you'll want to play something else.
Dude, I'd fucking hope you'd be able to beat a video game sometime. This is like somebody saying, I beat Mario Odyssey 500 times. Honestly, I think I might go play Mario Wonder. Mario Odyssey fucking sucks, dude, because I have to go play a different game after I beat the game, guys. Like, this is just how fucking disingenuous this guy is, to literally claim that because you were able to beat a video game that it's not good. This is actual fucking mental midget behavior, y'all.
Like, nobody ever really stops to think that, like, you know, is Elden Ring the best FromSoftware game ever made? Is it seriously better than Dark Souls, right? Is it better? Nobody really wants to, like, address that question, because when you actually try to answer it, if you think about it critically at all, if you actually play both games, like I have, if you actually, like, you know, put it to the test, you'll realize very quickly that the original Dark Souls is undoubtedly better than Elden Ring. And when you take that into consideration, that means that Elden Ring has fallen off. It is the same thing, but worse. There is no innovation, there's no change. It's the same thing, just not as polished or interesting, right?
Yeah, so Mario 1 on the SNES is actually worse than Mario 2 on the NES because it doesn't iterate yet. It's just the same game, but better graphics, guys. Like,
Shut the fuck up, dude. How the fuck are you, like, any judge of Elden Ring? Literally, I've seen your fucking stream of Elden Ring. It literally took you, like, 4 fucking hours to beat Margit. At least you beat Margit. But, like, it took you 4 hours with other people. Which, like I'm saying, I'm not some fucking retarded elite. It's like, yeah, you need to beat every boss. No hit. 0 health. Like, that type of shit. I think that's stupid as fuck. But still, you got your ass kicked for like 50 minutes and you're like, easy.
It is a straight up rehash. And when you take that into consideration, it becomes an issue of just like, why isn't FromSoftware innovating? Why can't they do anything fresh, new, or exciting? Why was this game that should have been their Breath of the Wild equivalent a complete and total failure?
The 23 million units sold seems to contradict your point, Harmon.
Right? Why did their DLC bomb so badly?
Once again, dude, the 5 million copies sold for the DLC so far is seem to contradict your point, buddy.
Like, where are they going to go from here? Like, the answer is FromSoftware has such an obsessive, cultish fan base that they cannot deviate from their established formula whatsoever. And what's going to happen is that the mass audience is going to get bored of it, and they're going to move on, while the core audience religiously sticks to it, like, no matter what. You can already kind of see this with, like, Armored Core 6, how some people were shilling for it because it's FromSoftware, but you also had, like, a very sizable portion of the audience who were upset that FromSoftware was making anything other than another FromSoftware game. Like,
a lot of people thought that I hate this guy. He's making me say FromSoftware now. He's getting that into my fucking vocabulary. That Armored Core 6 would be like Elden Ring, but futuristic. It's not. I think Elden Ring, but futuristic would be fucking awesome, by the way. But it's not, okay? So that's why a lot of people were saying this is shit. You know, I don't want to play this. I haven't played Armored Core 6, so I'm not going to fucking comment on it. It looks kind of shit, in all honesty. But yeah, I digress.
Another Souls-like, right? Because that's all they really want to see from these people, right? They can't handle anything even remotely different to FromSoftware. Like, they can't deviate from, like, that specific style of gameplay, because they don't really play video games at all, right?
I think the only people this argument really applies to are people who are considered gamers for playing fucking, like, Candy Crush on their phone for 5 minutes while they're shitting. Like, even those people are true gamers, you know? They're better gamers than this guy because they don't give a fuck who plays what game. They're all still gamers.
That's the reality of the current state of the FromSoftware fan base, is that they really cannot take into consideration that other games exist and that they have value.
With all that further ado, fellas, I'll see y'all in the next video. You know, have a good day, afternoon, or night. And remember, stay a gamer!